everyone this morning. There's always news every morning to wake up to. And we have a very short agenda, as I said, and we will proceed. The first item is the approval of the minutes and of meeting on September 4th, 2020. I'd like a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Okay, Howie and Aviva. Pat can choose first. And who seconded the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. On to consent items. We have 3 consent items on the agenda today. They are from Charter Oak State College. They are all certificates, Connecticut Parenting Educator Credential, Certificate in Professional Studies, and the After School Education. Yeah, I have a motion to approve the consent items.
I so move.
Second.
Howie. Thank you, Howie. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Adams, for being with us.
That's all right. Thank you for approving.
Action items. We have the first one is a modification, and it's the modification in the education and structural technology option in the Master of Science degree in education at Western Connecticut State University. You received an item, members of the committee. I hope please put yourself on mute. Okay. We received an item, a modification. There was an error in the information you received. The intention was that this is going to an online program, and the resolution that we received actually does that. That's a modification, I believe. So is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
What's revised?
Okay. And then my statement of the revision is correct, that it's going to an online. That's a modification.
Correct. It replaces the traditional modality on ground. That is correct, Chair Harris.
Okay. Then may I have a motion?
So moved. This is Holly.
Okay. Aviva? Uh-oh. Yeah.
Holly didn't. Holly, I tell you what, I go first, you go second, or you go first, I go second.
You can go first, Aviva. I'll second this meeting.
Okay. We have a first and a second. Dr. Gates, will you just briefly describe the action item and let Western comment?
Thank you. Western Connecticut State University seeks approval to modify the education instructional technology option leading to a Master of Science degree from a traditional delivery on ground to an online modality. Provost Missy Alexander will provide additional details.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. This is probably a duh moment that people who are learning to teach and support technology in the schools really need access to it in an online modality. For the record, we were moving this way before COVID. It just makes it more appropriate now. Katie O'Callahan is here from from education if you have any questions, but from our point of view, it's a straightforward. We've been cleaning up and making sure we meet the needs of our constituents.
We will move on to vote on the motion. All in favor of approving the program modification?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. Okay, moving on to the next item. Thank you, Missy. Is the appointment of the CSU professor at Eastern Connecticut State University. It's on page.
I have to be on mute. Okay.
It's on page 23 of the agenda. Could I have a motion? Holly?
So move.
Aviva, are you there? Camera's off.
I move, or second, whichever.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
thank you. Okay, we have taken action on similar motions before. This is from Eastern Connecticut State University. Raouf Mama is the professor, and as was described on page, I believe it's on, on page 26 to 23, CSU has 12 slots for professors. These are outstanding people, and once nominated, they serve, and approved, they serve as long as they stay at the university. And so I'm going to ask Dr. Gates to introduce this and then call upon Dr. Nunez to add some information.
Thank you. Eastern Connecticut State University recommends Dr. Raouf Mama, Professor of English, for designation as a Connecticut State University professor, effective October 15, 2020, upon the approval of the Board of Regents. The CSU Professor Advisory Committee stated that Dr. Mama met the benchmark of excellent in all three selection categories: creative activity, teaching, and service during his 30-year distinguished career at Eastern. Dr. Mama is a distinguished faculty member and renowned academic with an international reputation as a charismatic storyteller of African cultural traditions. He is a prolific scholar of international reputation. Upon the recommendation of Dr. Elsa Nunez, President of Eastern Connecticut State University, and in compliance with the terms and processes set forth in Article 5.6 of the BOR AAUP Collective Bargaining Agreement, this recommendation is forwarded to the ASA for approval.
Dr. Nunez, do you want to add anything, some particular information about Dr. Mama?
Yes, and Dr. Gates, thank you for that introduction. And Regent Harris, it's my privilege and honor to present Dr. Mama to you for your consideration. He is an outstanding scholar and teacher, and I will ask the Provost, Bill Solka, to give you the details.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you on behalf of Dr. Mama. Dr. Mama holds a PhD in English and Education and a Master's of Arts in English Language and Literature from the University of Michigan. He joined the faculty of Eastern as an assistant professor of English in 1990, was tenured and promoted to associate professor in 1996, and promoted again to full professor in 2001. In his 3 decades at Eastern, Dr. Mama has become an internationally acclaimed academic who is best known as a charismatic storyteller of African folktales. In fact, he has dedicated his career to saving folktales from his native Benin, Africa, and other parts of the non-Western world from permanent loss. This has led to Dr. Mama publishing several books, including Why Goats Smell Bad and Other Stories from Benin, and Why Monkeys Live in Trees. The latter work, Why Monkeys Live in Trees, won the National Multicultural Children's Book of the Year Award in 2008. Dr. Mama's nomination was supported by letters from more than a dozen scholars across 3 continents. I must say that reading his folktales is very impressive, but one must really see him perform these tales to truly appreciate his gift as an artist. While Dr. Mama is perhaps best known for his ability to engage audiences across the globe with his storytelling, I must also point out that he is an accomplished scholar in the field of education. In this field, he has demonstrated the utility of using storytelling as a multicultural teaching tool, which is shown to be particularly effective in teaching English as a second language. It is through this work that he was asked to serve as the U.S. State Department, for the U.S. State Department as a senior English language specialist in 2004. Thus, while most scholars spend their entire career trying to master one field, Dr. Mama has become internationally recognized in 2 fields, both English and education. The awards that Dr. Mama has received are too lengthy to list today, but I would like to highlight two. In 1998, early in his career, he was recognized as a master teaching artist by the Connecticut Commission of the Arts. In 2009, he received the Quabo Trophy of Excellence in Merit in Literature. This is Benin's highest honor in the arts, and it was described in one of his letters of support as the equivalent of the Presidential Medal of Honor here in the United States. In short, Dr. Mama is an eminent scholar with an internationally recognized body of work across two disciplines. His career to date clearly represents the high quality and continuous professional excellence that is worthy of the title of CSU Professor. If this recommendation is approved by the Board of Regents, he will become the third CSU Professor among Eastern's very talented faculty. Thank you.
Thank you. I have to unmute myself. He's very impressive, and as all of our CSU professors, and we're proud to have a group of 12 people. I believe their 12 slots are filled at this point. Is that correct, Dr. Gates? Yeah, this is the last one for now. And we are pleased to be able to vote on this motion. So we have a motion before us and to appoint Dr. Mama as a CSU professor. I think it's my mic for some reason. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. The next, thank you very much. Please extend our congratulations to Dr. Mama. The last item on our action item agenda today deals with accessibility, a policy on accessibility of our technology. This is particularly important for students with disabilities. Don't think about that often. In a classroom, you're able to have an interpreter, but you need to have something like that when you're going online and having students work online. Very complex. I read all the material and can tell you that I couldn't tell you exactly what every word meant. So we're going to call upon our experts in a few moments to explain the changes and why they are so important. We do not have a choice. The federal government requires and the state law requires that we have all of our resources accessible to people with disabilities. So this is a way of fulfilling that requirement. So may I have a motion to approve the action item on page 28?
I so move.
A second?
Second.
I'm going to call on Dr. Gates, who probably will call on Kevin Corcoran to address the item. Dr. Gates?
Thank you. CSCU is committed to ensuring equal access to information, programs, and activities through its information technologies, web pages, web-based applications, operating system-based applications, digital instructional content services and resources. This is in accordance with federal and state laws, including the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990, also known as the ADA, the Amendments Act of 2008, and Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, Section 508 of the 1973 Rehabilitation Act as amended, and the State of Connecticut Universal Website Accessibility Policy for state websites. And here to provide more detailed information and our resident expert, Kevin Corcoran, Executive Director, Digital Learning, and I'm sure he can add more specific details. Kevin?
Thank you, Provost Gates. Thank you, Regent Harris and the members of the board for the opportunity to present this accessibility policy to you. I'd like to introduce the Director of Accessibility Services at Western Connecticut State University, a critical person within this effort as co-chair for the subcommittee that crafted this policy and the standards associated with it. So as mentioned by Regent Harris and Provost Gates, We do have federal regulations in place as well as state guidelines, but the CSCU system does not have any policies and procedures in place to guide faculty, staff, and administrators in creating accessible digital learning experiences and beyond. Within the last year, January 2019, a system-wide accessibility advisory council that was formed. It contains over 40 members representing all 17 institutions. The council was formed through an open call for participation. Through that process, it was identified that there was a gap, that there was no framework, there was no standards to guide not only faculty, staff, and administrators in the support of accessible content, and an effort to draft those was underway. And that committee included not only 2-year and 4-year representation, it included folks from the accessibility services side, from IT and faculty in that development. And we were able to also call on individuals with disabilities who are part of our council to provide really key perspectives in their expertise and experiences to really inform the final output. So in today's packet, you do have a copy of the Electronic and Information Technology Policy that introduces the accessibility standards to framework how we can meet our goals of equitable and inclusive education. And talking about where we are today, I think Regent Harris started off, as we expand our online footprint and we continue to work in a remote learning opportunity, the need for accessible learning experiences is more critical now than ever, and the risk for non-compliance grows ever more. This policy and the standards associated follow national best practices and lessons learned from other institutions who have been cited and who have engaged in settlements for any accessibility wrongdoings. The policy before you has been vetted through the 40+ member council, as well as connected constituent groups. We've received direct feedback from the Council of Disability Directors, as well as the Council of Library Directors. An opportunity for institutional feedback was presented, as this was shared with the CEOs and presidents across the system, and was also presented at the Academic Council last month. We have received specific feedback from some institutions, and we have gone through as a subcommittee, and where appropriate and where legal, we've included those improvements and enhancements to the policy that you see before you. At every step, Legal Affairs, CSCU Legal Affairs, has reviewed each iteration of this policy. Now, part of this policy, there are a number of systems that are already in place to support the compliance and implementation of this policy. The system already has a software called Kaltura in place that is a video streaming platform that allows for closed captioning of videos. This is something that can be automatically executed by the platform in and of itself. All 17 institutions also have access to a platform called Blackboard Ally. This is a tool that not only assists faculty in identifying content that may have accessibility shortcomings, but also provides a path to remediation. In addition to that, students who may need additional support or additional formats have the ability to download content in an alternative format. So if a document is a text-based and there is a need for an audio-based version of that text, this software will produce that alternate format for our students. Beyond that, all of our campuses employ Microsoft Office 365 as our productivity suite. Built into each one of those tools, including Outlook, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, are built-in accessibility checkers so that anybody who's crafting any of these documents can do a self-check and immediately get feedback on how to remediate those particular items. And then lastly, there are tools in place like Microsoft Teams and WebEx, which are video conferencing tools that have built-in functionality that will allow for closed captioning on recordings. But in the case of Microsoft Teams, it actually provides live captioning as someone is speaking. In addition to these systems that are already in place right now to support the policy, the Council has developed additional resources to support the implementation of the policy, including a brand new website that can be found at accessibility.ct.edu. It contains a number of resources that were developed by the Accessibility Council including an accessibility checklist for course designers or course developers, and a plethora of resources related to training on how to make your content more compliant. In addition, we've started an initial conversation with HR to find a training module that may be applicable for all 17, including the system office personnel, as something that will be included in our ongoing yearly training. And then lastly, not only based on the conversation within the council, but based on the feedback we've received from institutions, the committee has created a compliance companion document to provide some guidance and some recommendations or suggestions on how institutions might implement this policy over a 3-year period and provide some guidance around some critical elements. So with that, I'm going to pause and ask Elizabeth if you have anything else you want to add.
Sure. So I think that you did a great overview. The only thing that I would like to add for everyone is while we've been focusing on the need of this policy for individuals with disabilities, this policy will also impact those that are able-bodied as well, and increasing the access to student success and retention of all documents for all of our students. So while it's focusing on the legal compliance for individuals with disabilities, it has a far greater reach for all of our students.
Thank you. We're happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Members of the committee, do you have any questions? The only question I have, since no one else seems to have one, is if a faculty member is using something that's not compliant, because that's part of the issue, is the institution responsible? How does that happen? In other words, how do we monitor it and make sure that that's not happening, or who bears the responsibility?
I'll respond with a broader response, and then I'll ask Elizabeth to maybe. In this policy, there are standards that are set, but it is up to the individual institution to create the procedures on how to implement this. This allows campuses that have different sets of resources, different sets of budget, or different support structures to really customize the procedures to what they're able to do. So, Elizabeth, do you want to talk about responsibility at that level?
Yeah, so I think in reviewing the platforms or the resources that the faculty member would want to do in that initial implementation of the policy is where we would be identifying those areas that need to be remediated. Of course, we want everything to be as accessible as possible, but we also have to look at what is externally facing, what's internally facing, and who's going to be interacting with the material. There's also an exception process. Where if we're finding that it can't be accessible with what we're using and it's only impacting a small group of individuals, then there is that exception process to go through and provide alternate means of access. Of course, that's not what we want to default to. We want to be as accessible as possible, but there is areas within the policy that provides for that freedom a little bit more.
Thank you. Thank you. That help is very helpful to me. Any other questions? Holly, Aviva?
I thought it was a great overview, Kevin and Elizabeth. Thank you for your work on this. It sounds really promising.
No, I'm just curious. It seems like an enormous task for both. I just can't imagine how they can accommodate all disabilities, deaf, blind. I assume those are all issues, are they not?
Yeah.
So it'll be troublesome.
It is troublesome, but it's federal.
I guess it's federal law. We have no choice.
Right. And
I guess we'll just work with it and see how it goes.
You know, you develop an appreciation for how people with disabilities have to function when you begin to see yourself have a disability. I know that as I don't hear as well as I used to, that when I now do closed captioning on TV when I'm listening to a program that's coming from Britain or other countries, because the accent gets involved and I have a problem. and you really start to develop what it's like for someone that lives with this every day in a more intensive manner. And so I appreciate the fact that we have to make sure of access.
I do have one question. I assume this has been a problem in person or online. In other words, the fact that we're going online so much, it probably compounds the problem, but it must have been a problem before as well.
I'll ask Elizabeth to respond to
Yeah.
that because she is handling the accommodation requests for Western Connecticut State University.
Yeah. So it's certainly been a problem. These issues for systems and institutions have been around for a long time. This is nothing new. I think us going online has just compounded the issue. But of course, we have been remediating on the back end for years. And as we see more and more cases come through and settlements being finalized, we're seeing what the requirements are, where is the legal threshold, where is our responsibility. And, you know, technology is the fastest growing platform right now. And so we just have to continue to change as we get more information. But yes, it's been an issue on ground as well as online.
Kalina, do you have any questions?
No,
Okay,
thanks.
thanks. Okay, thank you all very much. We do not have any questions, so it's been a lot of work. I know getting this together, we appreciate it. It's very important for our system. Certainly do not need additional legal challenges on things. All in favor of the resolution then on page 28?
Aye.
In policy?
Aye. Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you very much. And I hope it runs smoothly and the training goes well, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, that is actually, those are the action items. We have some information items. I have to get my agenda back up here. There's too many platforms I'm working on. Maybe that's the problem. There are two action information items, I believe. Let me see. Yes, there's, excuse me, only one information item, and that is a program at Western Connecticut State University. A below threshold, and again, it's an instructional technology. So that is the agenda. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I second. Holly first, I second. Thanks.
Okay, a motion and a second. All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all very
Thank you.
much. Have a safe month until we meet again.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye, bye.
Pat, you want to hold on a sec? How you doing?
Oh, relieved. Thank you. This is always the worst part, but thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
Can't thank you enough. I've remembered to record